Brown defenders say what fans needed to hear about Deshaun Watson's lead. Now, we all know Mary Kay Cabot tried to run with the story and make it seem like Deshaun Watson had some lead on the quarterback battle that Todd Monken debunked within 24 hours, okay?
The Browns quarterback situation just got another jolt, and this time it came with a tone that felt a lot more direct, a lot more grounded, and honestly, a lot more revealing than the usual offseason noise. Maliek Collins stepped into the conversation and made it clear that this quarterback battle is nowhere near over. And that matters, because when a veteran on the roster starts speaking this confidently, you should pay attention. Not because it automatically settles anything, but because it usually tells you what the people inside the building are really seeing. And what they are seeing, according to the source, is not some finished answer. It is a competition that is still unfolding, still being evaluated, and still very much open in practice, even if the headlines keep trying to force a conclusion. That is why this whole story has Browns fans locked in right now. The Shedeur Sanders versus Deshaun Watson conversation has become bigger than just a quarterback room. It has turned into a referendum on the Browns' direction, the coaching staff's honesty, the front office's patience, and the organization's willingness to let football actually decide football. Every time a report says one guy has the lead, somebody else pushes back. Every time a reporter tries to shape the narrative, another voice inside or around the team says, hold on, not so fast. And that is exactly what made Collins' comments hit the way they did. Because he did not sound like someone trying to sell a storyline. He sounded like someone who has seen enough behind the curtain to know that what fans are hearing publicly is not always the full picture. The source makes it pretty clear that the initial push from the media around Watson having the lead did not sit well with everybody. Some of the coverage, especially the kind that painted the competition as already tilting in Watson's favor, got a quick reality check from people who are actually around the team. That is where Maliek Collins' comments become so important. He did not fully ignite the fire himself, but he definitely kept it burning. And when a veteran defensive lineman says he has spent time with Todd Monken and believes the competition is still wide open, that carries real weight. Collins was careful at first. He did not immediately come in swinging. He started with respect. He talked about both quarterbacks as good people. He acknowledged Deshaun Watson's ability and recognized Shedeur Sanders as talented. But beneath that polite opening was a much bigger message. The competition is not over. There is still a lot to prove, and nobody in that locker room should be acting like the job already belongs to anybody. That's the part Browns fans wanted to hear, because there has been so much noise around this quarterback battle that it's hard to know who is telling the truth and who is trying to build a narrative. Some reports have leaned toward Watson, others have pushed Shedeur. Some have treated the battle like a foregone conclusion, but Maliek Collins, through the source, basically said what a lot of people inside football circles already understand. A quarterback competition is never really just a clean little public event where everybody gets the same exact starting point and the best player simply wins in a vacuum. There are layers. There's investment. There's draft capital. There's coaching trust. There's experience. There's organizational pressure. And all of that shapes the race.
Here says the 2026 Cleveland Browns, bearing something wildly unforeseen, will feature one of Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders, Dillon Gabriel, rookie, Taylor Green as a starting quarterback. The two extreme long shots at this juncture appear to be Gabriel and Green. While recent reports indicate that Watson has somehow taken the lead in the competition, conventional wisdom be damned, the conundrum likely represents the first crossroads for Todd Monken to define what his tenure in Cleveland.
That's where the story gets even more interesting, because once you peel away the headlines, the Browns aren't simply deciding whether Watson or Shedeur looks better in a couple of reps. They're trying to determine what kind of team they actually want to be. Do they keep leaning on the veteran with the heavy contract and the past success, or do they take the young quarterback with the energy, upside, and chance to change the whole direction of the franchise? That is not a small decision. That is the kind of choice that can define a head coach's tenure in Cleveland, and Todd Monken is right in the middle of it. That's why Collins' comment about an open competition matters so much. If he's right, then the team is still evaluating, still comparing, and still waiting for somebody to clearly separate. That means Shedeur Sanders still has a real chance. It means Watson hasn't locked it up just because a report said he had the edge. And it means the Browns are at least pretending, or perhaps genuinely trying, to allow the process to play out the way it should. That's important because one of the biggest fears from fans has been that this would turn into another situation where the organization quietly leans towards the expensive veteran, no matter what the actual football says. The source points to that concern directly. People are worried that ownership fingerprints are still all over the process, and that the coaching staff may not have as much freedom as the public wants to believe. But Collins' comments, at least on the surface, suggest there is still a battle to be won, and that battle is bigger than people realize, because Shedeur Sanders is not just fighting for a starting job, he is fighting for credibility. Every young quarterback has to prove he can handle the playbook, the speed, the pressure, and the decision-making, But Shedeur is also battling the perception war that comes with being one of the most talked about rookies in the league. Every rep gets judged, every throw gets magnified, every early mistake gets treated like a referendum. So when a veteran like Maliek Collins says the competition is still open, that can matter more than it seems. It tells the rookie, the locker room, and the fan base that the door is still unlocked. That leads directly into the other part of the source, which is Tyvis Powell's breakdown on whether Shedeur can be a top 20 quarterback in 2026. That question is huge, and it's probably one of the most important ones Browns fans will spend all off-season thinking about. Because if Shedeur is even flirting with that level, then the Browns may finally have a real answer at quarterback. Not just a temporary solution, not just a stopgap, a real one. Tyvis doesn't overpromise. That's what makes his answer useful. He doesn't just say yes because he likes the player. He doesn't say no because he wants to sound tough. He actually breaks down what has to happen. And the first thing he points to is the roster around Shedeur. The Browns have done a real job improving that unit, especially up front. That offensive line got a serious investment, and that matters because a young quarterback can't be fairly evaluated if he is running for his life every drive. That's just football reality. If the line is poor, the quarterback gets blamed for everything. If the line is good, then you finally get to see what the quarterback actually is. That is why Tyvis says the Browns have built enough around the position to give Shedeur a real chance. That doesn't guarantee he'll be in the top 20, but that absolutely makes the possibility more realistic. A quarterback can only look so good if the pockets are collapsing and the receivers aren't finishing plays. So if the Browns really have upgraded the offensive line and the receiving room the way they think they have, then Shedeur's ceiling becomes much more interesting. Tyvis also makes another point that is easy to miss but crucial to the whole discussion. Shedeur tends to chase greatness, sometimes at the expense of taking the simpler play. That's not necessarily a bad trait. In fact, it can be a strength if it's paired with the right supporting cast. But if the receivers are not on the same page or the timing is off, that tendency can become a problem. The quarterback wants to push the ball, the receiver is not ready, the play breaks down, the result gets ugly. That's the risk with a young quarterback who sees the game aggressively.
Will be. Okay, here it says, fans have grown understandably tired of Watson, who never got much of a warm welcome to begin with for reasons that are well known, not worth rehashing in this space, claiming Watson took the lead in a quarterback competition, checks notes voluntarily, unpadded veteran minicamp, in an insult not only to the rest of the Cleveland Browns, is an insult not only to the Cleveland Browns roster, but the entire fan base as well. There's little resembling NFL football that went on at practices. The scene more closely resembles a friendly toss between children at recess.
Still, Tyvis is not negative about it. Far from it. He basically says that if Shedeur can clean up the turnover-worthy plays, take the easy throws, and stop forcing the "what are you doing" moments, then yes, top 20 is on the table. That is a big statement because a top 20 quarterback in the NFL is not an empty label. It means you are good enough to start, good enough to compete, and good enough to make the rest of the offense function. That is exactly what the Browns have been missing for too long. And that brings us back to the training camp piece. Tyvis also knows that early camp is not the place to overreact. That is a strong point, and it is one fans need to keep in mind. When a team installs a new offense, the defense almost always looks better early. That is because defense is reactive. Offense is timing-based. Offense depends on chemistry, communication, and comfort in the system. So if the Browns' offense looks clunky in the first couple of practices, that does not mean the sky is falling. It may just mean the install phase is still working itself out. That is especially true for a quarterback like Shedeur, who is still learning how to consistently operate as a pro. He needs reps, he needs rhythm, he needs time to understand where to take the layup instead of forcing the harder shot. Tyvis really emphasized that too. He made the point that Shedeur needs to show the coaching staff that he is willing to take the simple completion when it's there. On 3rd and 5, if there's a 5-yard throw that moves the chains, take it. Do not get cute. Do not try to force the home run. Do the job. Keep the drive alive. That is how quarterbacks grow up in this league. And if he can do that, then the top 20 conversation starts getting a lot louder. But here's the key part. If Deshaun Watson is the starter from day one, what happens to Shedeur? The source addresses that too, and Tyvis's answer is a fair one. He says historically the Browns have used multiple quarterbacks over recent seasons, so it would not be shocking if Shedeur still gets on the field at some point. That does not necessarily mean he starts week 1, it means his future is still alive inside the season. If Deshaun struggles, the opportunity will come. If Deshaun thrives, then the Browns may ride it out. out. But either way, Shedeur does not disappear. That's important because a lot of people are talking about this as if the winner of the offseason battle gets everything and the loser gets nothing. That is not always how it works. Young quarterbacks can still develop, still get snaps, and still force the issue later. But to do that, the staff has to trust them, and that trust comes from performance, not hype. That's where Todd Monken's role really matters. Tyvis points out that Todd Monken is not going to hide things forever. He's a pretty direct coach, and that means the quarterback who is playing best will eventually know where he stands. That kind of honesty is healthy in a quarterback room, especially one with this much pressure attached to it. Shedeur needs to hear clearly what he is doing right and what he still needs to work on. Deshaun needs to know whether he's actually playing well enough to hold the job, and the rest of the locker room needs to know that the coaching staff is not just going through the motions. That's where Maliek Collins' comments fit in so well. He's basically confirming that the locker room knows this thing is not settled. That matters because players can smell fake competition from a mile away. They know when a battle is just for show. They know when the staff has already made its mind up, and they know when the organization is trying to sell the public something different from what is happening in the building. So when a guy like Collins says the competition is still open, that means it is either genuinely open or the staff is at least doing enough to keep the room from assuming otherwise.
Here it says the entire firestorm has Browns fans worrying that Monken's tough talk was just a shtick, and that the ownership group's fingerprints remain on matters where they have no business meddling. At the very least, fans have a trustworthy source to keep the hope alive for now. In an appearance on five-time Pro Bowler Teron Armstead's podcast, The Set, standout Browns defensive lineman Maliek Collins made it clear that the team knows where the competition stands going forward, and it's far from over. Mary Kate Cabot.
That's a big deal because the Browns do not just need a quarterback. They need a quarterback battle that feels real. They need a process that the locker room can believe in. They need a coaching staff that is willing to make the hard choice if Shedeur earns it, or Watson earns it, or somebody else does. If the players inside the building lose trust in the process, that's when things start breaking apart fast. That's when a team starts hearing the noise from outside and then carries it into the meeting room. That's when another Cleveland season starts slipping into the same old cycle. But if Collins is right, then maybe that's not happening this time. Maybe the competition really is alive. Maybe Shedeur really does have a shot. Maybe Watson doesn't have the job locked up. Maybe the Browns are actually going to let the best quarterback win, and maybe this time everybody knows it. That would be a major step forward. So the real question now is simple. Who is going to separate first? Watson, the veteran with the contract and the history, or Shedeur, the young quarterback with the upside, the confidence, and the chance to change the entire direction of the franchise? According to Maliek Collins, the answer has not been decided yet. According to Tyvis Powell, the path for Shedeur is real if he takes the right steps. And according to the Browns locker room, this thing is going to be decided on the field, not by rumors. That is exactly how it should be. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe for more Browns updates, Shedeur Sanders coverage, and NFL analysis just like this. And drop your thoughts in the comments because this quarterback battle is only getting hotter from here.